What's up, design family, and welcome to another episode of Fit Design TV. So glad to have you here. On today's episode, we have a short and simple topic. The topic is colors, especially when it comes to fashion design and creating a digital design and translating that into a physical prototype or production ready design. Have you ever wondered, how do I specify a color and have that translate as accurately as possible into real life? With so many different colors out there and the understandings of these colors being so skewed between different people, how do you communicate colors the right way? Watch this video, you're going to find out. Hey guys, and welcome to Fit Design TV. So glad to have you here. On this channel, we discuss all things sports fashion, graphic design, manufacturing, and technology. We'll discuss key topics, answer pressing questions, and provide actionable steps on starting your own product line. If you're interested in any of the above topics, stick around. You're in for a good one. We've been there before in the sense that you have your digital design, you have an idea for a color in mind. Let's just say you have a track top and you're looking to create a very nice navy blue variant of it. Person A might interpret the word navy blue in a different way, in a different manner than person B. If you put two people in the same room together and ask them to pick their or to think of their perfect shade of navy blue, chances are they're going to come up with different shades. Yes, the word is the same, however, the understanding of the exact shade, because there's such a wide spectrum of shades, is very different. So how do we avoid issues like that when specifying colors? You could say, oh, I use Adobe Illustrator and I could provide the specific RGB of the color I'm looking for. Great, yes, you can do that and you can be very, very specific. However, chances are when it comes to dyeing color onto garments, you're not going to have the exact dye that's going to match the RGB of that color. And even more so, and this is a big issue, the colors that you're seeing on screen, whether you're using a Mac or an iMac or a Lenovo or a MacBook or a PC or a standard PC or whatever it may be, whatever your system is, chances are you're transmitting colors a different way between these different screens. So digitally you're seeing one thing in your RGB, however in real life when you're taking that color, it's translating it very, very differently. So there's a mismatch in color there, and sometimes when you have your garment dyed and ready to go, it's already too late to make these changes. So how do we avoid these changes and how do we minimize these changes? Well, it comes down to specification. How are we specifying our colors? We want to use a universal format that's widely accepted, and there's only one place to go for that, and that's really Pantone. I'm sure you guys have heard the term Pantone before, but may not necessarily know exactly what it means. Yes, you may understand that it's related to color, but really Pantone is an organization. It's a company just like any other company, and they've created standardized color guides for just about anything you can think of. Whether you're printing on metal, or if you're printing on textile, or you're printing on leather, or you're printing on paper, they have a printing catalog or printing guide for each of these printing methods. For us, we're interested in printing on textiles, whether it's a traditional flatbed printing way or dyeing or sublimation. There are many different ways of printing. When it comes to specifying color, there's only one main guide that you'll want to look at. And before I get into the specific different guides that Pantone offers or that they have, I'll run you guys through how to see these Pantone guides. There's a couple ways. For us, I have the Pantone Studio app. It's available on the App Store, probably available on the Android or Google Play Store. You can get onto the Pantone website, www.pantone.com, and you'll be able to see the different guides that they have there. What do I mean by guides? Remember I mentioned that you can print or you can colorize different materials, different types of things. You can have different specifications for printing on paper or printing on textile. Each of these guides will relate to the different applications. So we'll need to specify what Pantone guides are correct for our applications, which is what this video is for. I use the Pantone Studio, my team uses the Pantone Studio, and it's a great way for us to select the right Pantone color and then put that into our tech bag so that when we're sending off our designs to the factory, we can rest assured that chances are the color that's going to come at the end of the day is going to be 99% accurate to what we digitally see on screen. And it's also important to note that we do use very color accurate monitors, and that's something that maybe not everyone has access to. We use standard IMAX, they have a great sRGB accuracy, and we highly recommend that you definitely invest a little bit into the digital screen you're seeing your products in. For the most part, most modern screens that are catered towards design purposes are gonna get the job done. So the Pantone Studio. The interface here is quite simple. You open up and you have the different guides. So just off the bat, we can see we have our formula guide solid coated, we have our formula guide solid uncoated, our color bridge coated, our color bridge uncoated. So coated and uncoated relate to, let's just say, the different vibrancy levels of these colors. Coated will most likely be more of a matte finish, and uncoated will be, coated will be more of a shiny gloss finish, and uncoated will be more of a matte finish. So this is just something to bear in mind, because this coated, uncoated terminology comes up in different guides that Pantone offers. Now we see here the Cotton TCX guide. That's the holy grail when it comes to fashion design and curating color for textiles. Most traditional dyeing methods, so when you get a garment and it's fully dyed, it's not sublimation, it's not printed on, it's a full dye, aka the yarns themselves are dyed. So it's actually the yarns themselves before they're knitted into the fabric are dyed. You'll be looking at dyeing using either of these TCX colors. So you can see here the range is huge. They have pretty much everything in the spectrum, from desaturated colors to saturated colors, so on and so forth. Access any one of these TCX cards and you'll see the name. Here we have Dewberry. You'll see the TCX code, so that's the 183533 TCX because it's specifying the specific guide it's in. And what I love is it has an RGB, so an sRGB correlating value if you want to be working on Illustrator, or if you're working in a rendering software where you're inputting the color manually. And it has a hex depending on if you're using hex codes on Illustrator or if you're using hex codes on your website. You can maintain as accurate as possible, and you pretty much have the different corresponding values to this TCX. TCX, like I mentioned, is great when you're using yarn dyed fabrics and you want to make sure that your yarn dyed fabric is going to be as accurate as possible to your digital design. So let's just say you have a pair of leggings and you know you like this color. You would essentially specify the Dewberry TCX with the name in your actual tech pack, and when it comes to the color, you would apply this sRGB in your digital design. So your digital design will reflect your physical design. This is what we do, and we found that this is the highest level of fidelity between digital color and actual physical color. Like I mentioned, there are other TCX alternatives. If you don't want to use TCX and you have different types of prints that you need to do, let's just say you want to use specifically more vibrant prints. TCX is great. It does have a bunch of vibrant prints, but a great alternative for, again, yarn dyed fabrics with vibrant prints is the Nylon Brights TN. And this does a great job of providing really vibrant colors, neons, which are super trendy right now, and we highly recommend it. It's one of the alternatives. I will preface this by saying not all of the guides in Pantone can be used on textiles. Some of them will be able to be used, however, they won't translate as accurately as others. So you could use a CMYK color, however, it may not necessarily translate the way that it shows up on screen. CMYK colors are usually reserved for digital printing. So if you have a digital print with different gradients in it, you'll want to offer up the CMYK codes for those different colors. And that's why you want to be using that specific guide as opposed to the TCX guide, because those colors won't translate into the final print the way that they translate into the yarn dyed fabrics. So again, these specific color guides are curated towards their uses and their specific applications. I'm saying specific a lot, but I'm trying to be as specific as possible here. We'll also look at our formula guide coated and solid uncoated. What are these used for? Formula guide solid coated can be used for yarn dyed fabrics. So again, actual dyeing of color. However, they can also be used for prints. You have heat transfer prints, like the ones I have right here, whether they're reflective prints or they're silicone prints, you'll want to specify the coated colors or the uncoated colors depending on the style of colors. Like I mentioned, uncoated colors, they're more matte, and coated colors have a bit more vibrancy and punch to them. You can also specify your prints in TCX. So this is really where you get a lot of overlap between the different guides. However, it's just a matter of finding what works best for you. In our experience, we found that the coated guides are much better for specifying prints, and you get sharper, brighter prints, essentially. Now the good question is black and white. What colors to specify for black and white? Do I just go on to Pantone and do I find a corresponding TCX value for black and white? Really, pure black is what we specify as processed black C. So that's just the truest black that you can have. And when it comes to pure white, you can have optic white, which is the truest white you can have. These are not mentioned in the Pantone library, and really it's just a general term for creating the whitest white possible and then the blackest black possible. Alternatively, if you want to get a little bit fancy, you can have specific TCX codes. So I call these like designer whites and designer blacks. Instead of having a processed black C, you can have a caviar black. And instead of having a optic white, you can have a nimbus cloud, which is a white with a bit of blue in it. So it all depends on the aesthetic you're going for. However, do know that there are a wide variety of colors that you can select from. And really you can personalize your garment down to the last RGB. That's why I love Pantone. It's just the selection of colors and the ability to have something be unique, even if you're actually going for a traditional color like black or white. There are outliers to the situation. What are some outliers? Well, have you ever thought of printing patterns? This is a good example of a pattern print. This is a camel print, and it's a black on black camel print. How do I specify these colors? What is a pattern made out of? A pattern is made out of shapes that are arrayed in a tileable fashion. In this case, it's camel style blotches with different shades to them. So we can see black, we can see a dark navy, we can see a lighter navy, and we can see kind of like a medium navy. They come out as navy here because the printing method only kind of allocates this bluish tint to them. However, I know for a fact that these colors are more on the neutral side on digital screen. So this is one of the things that you see when you translate digital colors into physical colors, is you end up coming up with, let's just say, happy surprises. In this case, this looks more of like a stealthy navy camel versus a stealthy neutral camel. And that's just the nature of specifying the right colors for it. When it comes to specifying these colors, you have 4 tones of blacks in here, and you'll have to specify the TCX codes for each of these tones. Your base garment, and you'll see this on the inside, is this color. So this is not a black. They haven't used black for this base garment. It's probably like a some asphalt or some sort of TCX color that is specific to this. And then they'll print on top of it using either a flatbed printing method or a rotary printing method, the different blotches in phases. If there are 3 layers of blotches, they'll print each of these blotches one after another, and each of these blotches will have its own TCX code, and you'll have to specify these 4 different TCX codes. And that's how you print patterns. This is if you want to go for a traditional flatbed printing method, which in my opinion gives the most amount of fidelity to the colors. However, you're limited in this fact that you have to specify certain shades. As you've seen here, this is a stealth camel. However, it has a bluish tint to it because there's a little bit of a limitation in colors. On the contrary, you can use sublimation, where you can actually just specify sRGBs. You can use any color ever, and you can actually have gradients, and you can have all these wacky things. But with sublimation, you're limited in the types of garments that you can use. You could pretty much only use polyesters because polyesters are the only synthetic fibers suitable for sublimation, and a lot of people are not down for that. And in my opinion, the trade-off of having to select specific TCXs and having to kind of navigate the different shades is well worth the fact that you get a custom blend. This is around a 50-50. You get a nice brush fleece inner finish, and you don't have to always stick with pretty much 100% poly or majority polyester fabrics. We've covered TCX, we've covered printing with patterns, and now what about the miscellaneous things? Well, let's just say you have packaging and trims. For packaging and trims, you'll want to use the paper-specific guides. The paper specific guides are going to be specific to printing on paper, whether it's the base paper or printing on top of that paper. You can use the CMYK palettes, or you can use the actual paper guides. Forget the actual name, but I will get it for you right now. And essentially the paper guides are as follows. It's just the paper TPG. So it's the TPG booklet, and it's great for specifying your exact colors. So let's just say you're creating a custom hang tag and you want it to be this off-gray color. It's called Excalibur. And what I like about the Pantone guide is, let's just say you love this color, but you want to see the same color in TCX because you want to match your hang tags to your garment. You want to use this. You're obviously not going to specify a TPG color for your garment, but you can swipe up, go into cross references, and you can see how this color translates into the other guides. You can see in some of the other guides, it doesn't translate at all, right? If the app is trying to translate a TPG into a TN, which is the nylons, those vibrants, there's really no vibrant gray you can have. So it's just giving you this swooshing. However, for TCX, look, we have a great match between the TPG and the TCX. You'll notice the TCX here has more of a bluish tint. I'm unsure why TCX is sometimes tinted to bluish tint. I'm not gonna create a blanket statement and say all of them have bluish tints. Really, they don't. You can get some really nice colors. This is a Sedona Sage colorway specified specifically from the TCX booklet, and I'll probably run you through it right here. Sedona Sage, so you can kind of see how this color looks side by side. Sedona Sage. So you can kind of see here, it's more of a gray. It came out a bit more vibrant in real life. However, sometimes the opposite is going to happen. That's why creating the lab dips when you have selected your colors, before you go ahead and colorize the entire roll of fabrics, you'll want to ask your mill to create some lab dips for you so you can see how the fabrics look. We created lab dips beforehand and I fell in love with the Sedona Sage colorway. However, some people, it may not be for them, so they'll want to get something closer to the digital color they had in mind. But this is part of the process. When you go from digital to physical, you need to prototype first. And the way we prototype with colors is lab dips. That involves taking a small sliver of fabric, dyeing it accordingly, and testing it. The reason we do that is because we also want to see how the dye is going to react on the specific fabric. The same colors, and I'll show you specific examples of the same color being used on two different fabrics, have different effects on the end vibrancy, saturation, darkness, lightness of the color. So you can use the same TCX on two different fabrics, but they'll translate differently. That's why prototyping is essential, and I'm not gonna ramble on too much. That's another video for another day. However, I wanted to share you guys how we specify and how we go from digital colors to physical colors. I highly recommend you guys look into the Pantone Studio app or just www.pantone.com. It's free. Until next time, guys, if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider smashing a thumbs up, commenting below on what other topics you want to see. Thank you so much for tuning in to Fit Design TV. Until next time, stay awesome.